Alright guys, so this is your review for your synthetic division test. You're going to get 4 questions where I give you a factor and 4 questions where I don't. So once again, when I give you a factor, what we do is we put a number in the box, and the number is always what makes the divisor equal to 0. So I'm going to put -3 in my box, and now I'm going to copy down my coefficients with their signs. So it's 1, 6, -1, and -30, and I'm looking to create a 0. So I drop my first term, and 1 times -3 is -3. You add 6 and -3 is 3. 3 times -3 is -9. -1 and -9 is -10. And -3 times -10 is 30. And we get 0 as our remainder. And if we have 0 as our remainder, we're going to factor this depressed equation. So we're left with x squared plus 3x minus 10. And that factors to x plus 5, x minus 2, and then we need to include x plus 3, the given factor as well. So when I do my zeros, the 3 numbers that make the parenthesis equal to 0 are my zeros, -5, 2, and -3. So essentially, my answers for factors, whoops, let's do a little better there. For factors, it's these 3, and oops, let's do it like this instead. These are my factors, and these are my zeros, right there. Okay. We'll do one more like that. Now here we have a coefficient of 2 in the front. It really doesn't change what we're doing. 7 is what makes this parenthesis equal to 0. So I put 7 in the box. Okay. And now I'm going to draw our line, and then our line down here. And then I copy down my coefficients. 2, -9, -33, and -14. Okay. We always drop that initial term, that initial coefficient, down to 2, and now we're just multiplying and adding. So we get 14. And when I add, it comes up with 5. 5 times 7 is 35. -33 and 35 is 2. And then 2 times 7 is 14. And that also gives us a 0 as a remainder. So therefore, we can factor what is left. Okay. So it's 2x squared. Oops, 2x squared plus 5x. Ooh, correct that. Plus 5x plus 2. And we're going to factor 2x plus 1, x plus 2, and I do have to include that other factor that was given to me, x minus 7. So my zeros are going to be -1/2, which makes the first parenthesis equal to 0, -2, and 7. And let's box up our answers because drawing the circle did not work very well. So these are my factors, and these are my zeros. Now the other type of problem I can give you when we're using the synthetic division with factors is if it's an x to the 4th problem, which means I'm going to give you 2 factors, which essentially means we're going to do our synthetic division twice. So -1 makes that first parenthesis equal to 0. I'm going to draw my box here, and then I'm going to draw my line, which is going to be a little longer because 1 extra coefficient. 1, -3, -15, 19, and 30 are my coefficients. We're going to drop first term. 1 times negative 1 is negative 1. Negative 3 and negative 1 is negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 1 is 4. Negative 15 and 4 is negative 11. Negative 11 times 1 is 11. Or negative 11 times negative 1 is 11. We get 30. And 30 times negative 1 is negative 30. And that adds up to 0. So now we're going to have to synthetically divide a second time. So 2 also makes my parentheses equal to 0. So that's the number that goes in the box. Put my line down here. And now I'm going to use this depressed equation down here. We don't use the original ones. We use the new depressed equation. And that's going to allow us to get something that we can factor. So I bring that one down. 1 times 2 is 2. And we're left with negative 2. Negative 2 times 2 is negative 4. Negative 4 times negative 4 and negative 11 is negative 15. And then negative 15 times 2 gives us a negative 30. It gives us another 0. All right. And now I'm going to factor. X squared minus 2x minus 15. When I factor that, I get x minus 5, x plus 3. But I have to include my other factors. So let me see if I can move this one down here a little bit. Yep. So x minus 5 times x plus 3. And I do need to include my other factors. X plus 1, x minus 2. And then my zeros are going to be 5, negative 3, negative 1, and 2. So there are my answers. We have my factors and we have my zeros. My factors we're going to box up right here. And my zeros we're going to box up right here. Final one. Obviously not a 1 coefficient as our leading coefficient. It's 3, but it doesn't really change what we do. 3 makes the x minus 3 equal to 0. So that's why I'm boxing up 3. Put my line down here. Let's copy the coefficients. You can use a calculator if these numbers start to get a little high for you. This one, the numbers are a little bit higher, but it still should work. We bring down that 3, and 3 times 3 is 9. 9 and negative 5 is 4. 4 times 3 is 12. 12 and negative 40 is negative 28. Negative 28 times 3 is negative 84. Oops, didn't mean to put 2 negatives there. Negative 84. And 100 is 16. 16 times 3 is 48, which gives us our 0. So we have a 0 remainder, and now I'm going to synthetically divide again. I'm going to use negative 4 to go in the box now, though. All right, we're just going to use the given factors when they're given to us. So negative 4, and now we're going to use the depressed equation, 3, 4, negative 28, 16. And with that, we need to put another line down here. All right, so we bring down that original, or that first number, which is 3. 3 times negative 4 is negative 12. So we're left with a negative 8. Negative 8 times a negative 4 is 32. So that gives us 4. And 4 times negative 4 is negative 16. So negative 16, we get a 0 here. And now I'm down to a point where I can factor. So now we're going to do 3x squared minus 8x plus 4. When I go to factor that, that is 3x minus 2 and x minus 2. All right, and that's how you can factor 3x squared minus 8x plus 4. Factors to 3x minus 2x minus 2, and I need to include x minus 3 and x plus 4. Here, and these are my answers. My zeros are going to be 2/3, which is what makes 3x minus 2 equal to 0, 2, 3, and negative 4. And let's box these numbers up as our answer. Let's see here. Use our rectangle. Here are my factors. And here are my zeros.